So I'm actually on my way to see Ed in Seal Beach. I'm driving from Redondo Beach to Seal Beach. So I thought it would be good to have a conversation about flow breakers, or we could call them flow restrictors. So I asked ChatGPT to provide me a list of flow restrictors, potential flow restrictors. And so I recommend my flow series. We realize that when we're on the journey to actualizing our vision, we may encounter what we refer to as flow breakers or flow restrictors. A flow breaker or a flow restrictor, I'm going to refer to them as flow restrictor. A flow restrictor is anything that appears to restrict your flow. So let's say you're an entrepreneur and you are involved with sales, marketing, operations, whatever, your day-to-day initiatives. And you're in your flow. You did your morning routine, you start your work day, and you are in your flow. Then you engage in a conversation with someone, and something they said appears to bring you out of your flow. You no longer are experiencing flow to that degree. You may feel stifled. You may feel that there's uncertainty, thoughts arising in mind of doubt, etc., in relation to what they said. That would be what we would call a flow restrictor. Now, it's important, as we discussed, that is identification that is resulting in the flow restrictor. A particular belief has been identified with in mind that is generating the flow restrictor experience. If awareness is brought to that particular belief and identification is released to that particular belief, if that individual appears to say that same thing, or even if that individual appears, the one that you are speaking with, you find that you are able to remain in your flow in conversations with them. You have released identification to the belief that was generating the flow restrictor. So that is how we define a flow restrictor. It is anything that appears to bring you out of your flow, yet it is not the appearance that is bringing you out of the flow. It is an identification to a particular belief in relation to the appearance that is generating the experience of being out of your flow. Flow is your natural way of being. As mind is purified from these limiting, restrictive, flow-restricting beliefs, so does the individual remain in their flow. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, what are some ways that the flow may be restricted? And so let's discuss. One of the ones that it shared is distractions. So again, distraction is pointing to belief identification. For example, let's say I am doing something, I'm engaging in a conversation with someone, and I'm deeply present to the conversation. We could relate this over to the video where we discussed power, presence, and warmth. I'll link in the description to that video. I'm having a conversation with someone. I'm deeply engaged in the conversation, like I am deeply engaged in this conversation. Yet, let's say something appears in my environment. Somebody walks by and they're doing something, and I appear to be distracted by what they're doing. Maybe even what they're doing results in an identification, or we could say, more accurately put, as a result of identification to a particular belief. I begin to think about something from the past, imagining in relation to now from the past, which generates uncertainty or doubt, or something that I would like to do in the future. I essentially am no longer present to the interaction with the person in front of me. Now, as we say, no shame, no condemnation. There's nothing wrong with you because you transcend beliefs. You exist beyond beliefs. The I, may be identified with a belief, which the belief in that particular moment was dormant, yet this other individual walked by while you're having a conversation with another individual. Let's say you're sitting in a cafe. The other person that walked by seemed to trigger a belief in which it resulted in distraction. No shame and condemnation. Simply bring your attention back to being engaged in the conversation. Again and again and again. And what this does is it results in releasing identification to that particular belief, whatever that may be. We could explore it further. So the experiences of what we can call distraction arise from belief identification. Consider life as a meditation. It is what I refer to as a living meditation. And as life is a living meditation, my purpose in life, your purpose in life, is to remain on purpose, to remain on course to actualizing your true self. In other words, being as you are, being the way you truly desire to be. So distractions that arise, that appear, anything that appears as a distraction, is not trying to distract you if we look at it from the metaphysical perspective. It is an appearance that is revealing identification to a particular belief that is generating the experience which we call distraction. And no shame and condemnation. Bring your attention back to the conversation. And through the repetition of doing this, you are able to remain lightheartedly focused and in flow while in conversations with people. I speak from personal experience, because in earlier stages, I would be distracted by the environment. And the environment is not distracting me. It's the belief identification in relation to the environment that is generating the appearance of being distracted. And through the practice, active meditation, living meditation, bringing my attention back to the conversation, again, again, and again, I remain lightheartedly engaged in the conversation, and I remain in my flow. The second is multitasking. So, for example, let's say a person is deeply engaged in their creative expression. Let's say they are painting. They're deeply engaged in their art, their painting. But they left their notifiers on their cell phone. So they're hearing notifiers for text messages, Instagram DMs. And each time the notifier goes off, they stop what they're doing and then they go and check the message. And let's say during the session, which is 50 minutes or a couple hours of painting, it happens about 10 or 15 times where they get DMs or text messages, and they go and check these messages and they respond. And they find that, again, it's a flow restrictor. They then recalibrate back to the painting. They get back into it. Now, they realize that the flow is broken, or the flow is restricted every time one of these distractions appear. So what can they do about it? Well, as we always say, we can accept things the way they are, we can change how we relate to it, or we could do something different. So what they can do is, during the moments that they are deeply engaged in creative expression, no matter what it is, art, dance, conversation as well, because I can see conversation as an art. I see it that way, as an art, the art of conversation. I enjoy conversations. Certainly I'm enjoying this conversation right here. So the flow is restricted as a result of multitasking, switching back and forth, checking the text messages, going back to painting, and they may even be doing other things, going and checking their email, switching back and forth, and as a result, they do not experience the creative expression in a flow-based way. So this is key: distraction and multitasking. Number 3, emotions. And it says here, negative emotions. I don't like to label emotions as negative emotions. I consider emotions as energy in motion. And so as emotions arise, we let them be. This is very helpful because then a person does not suppress or repress emotions. There are particular experiences in life where emotions are experienced very strongly. There are particular experiences in life where one could say they're experiencing unpleasant emotions. Yet if we do not label the emotions as negative, then the individual a lot of times does not try to resist feeling the emotions. As a result of not resisting feeling the emotions, they're able to remain in the flow while experiencing a wide array of emotions. Consider, for example, an athlete. They may experience a wide range of emotions, or emotions which are energy in motion, experienced in particular ways all throughout the game. Sometimes it can be experienced very strongly when the other opponent scores, or it could be experienced in a way that we could say happiness when they score. Wide range of emotions. And if they do not suppress or repress the emotions, but experience the emotions, allow them to be, they're able to remain in their flow. Now, if there are experiences of emotions, which again, emotions are energy in motion, in a way where we could say a person does not want to experience emotions in that particular way, whatever that way may be, they can transmute the emotions by relating to the experience in an ideal way. For example, let's take the athlete. The opponent scores and they're down now. So let's say it's a game of soccer. The score after the opponent scores is 2-1. The opponent's winning. There is about 10 or 15 minutes left in the game, and so they desire to tie the game. If they identify with let's say, frustration, anger, or they suppress the anger or frustration. This might provide what appears as temporary relief, although the habit of doing this again and again and again may have long-term undesirable effects, such as they feel disconnected with their emotions. They may forget that emotions reveal the beliefs identified with. They may then, as a result, experience difficulty bringing awareness to the beliefs because they do not have a harmonious relationship with emotions. Now, in the moment, they may transmute the emotions. They accept that they are experiencing emotions a particular way strongly, which they could label as anger or frustration. One of the things that allows me to transmute emotions successfully is making these videos, and more accurately put, sharing my experiences through these videos. So let's say I was experiencing frustration or anger. I, in that moment, say, this is an opportunity to learn from the experience, to transmute how I'm relating to the emotions, so that I can make a video and share personal examples of how I did it, so that it will benefit you. And I say this to myself in the moment. In that particular moment, I say it to myself. And right away, the emotions are transmuted to love, happiness, excitement in the moment. So the athlete can do that as well. They may think about their kids. They may think about their vision. They may think about who they are doing this for. They may think about the team. They may think about their fans. And in that moment, the emotions, where one could label them as anger or frustration, are still being experienced. They're not suppressed or repressed, but rather they are transmuted over to joy and excitement. Let's see what else ChatGPT said. Lack of clear goals. Now, I recommend having a vision, a definite major purpose in life. For further clarity on being as you are from a vision, which is your life purpose, definite major purpose, I recommend my subconscious mind program, which I'll link to in the description. And also, I recommend the vision video that I created in the start of the year. By having a vision, a goal, a definite major purpose, you are automatically oriented. You are on the journey to actualizing that. And one of the benefits is you can relate ideally to what appears, to release identification to the belief that generates the appearance of flow restrictor or flow breaker. You are clear. For example, let's use the entrepreneurial journey. An individual goes into a meeting. During this meeting, the aim is to facilitate a harmonious business deal. Maybe they are looking to acquire a client. Maybe they are looking for investment from this business deal. Meeting with investors. So, they're very clear as to where they're going. Now, during the interaction, the prospect may say something in which the entrepreneur identifies inharmoniously to what they said, and then they appear to get out of the flow. They're no longer in the flow. It's no longer a flow-based conversation. And emotions arise. Maybe in that moment, they begin to shame or condemn themselves, as we always say. No shame and condemnation. Right there, there's an opportunity to accept the emotions as they are. Be as you are. That allows the emotions to release, and the individual relaxes back into the flow, emotionally releases back into the flow. And then from that clarity arises the still small voice in which they are able to relate to the experience in a harmonious way. And how does it play out? I've experienced this a number of times myself. The individual knows what to say, not say, to facilitate the deal. So I get excited about this. What I mean is that if I'm doing a business deal or doing sales or conversations with clients, if something appears as a rejection or an objection, I actually become excited about it. Back in the days, there was an inward fight or flight response or freeze response. Now, through an appearance where one can call it a rejection or an objection, there's a genuine excitement. Why? Because through autosuggestion, I suggested to myself that appearances of rejection or objection stimulate creative ideas from the source, infinite intelligence within, which I could contribute to the conversation in which we can see eye to eye and move forward in a deal that is mutually harmonious. Autosuggestion. So an autosuggestion can be during perceived rejections or objections, I feel natural excitement. The still small voice arises from the premise of clarity, and I receive within hunches, insights, plans, visions to contribute to the conversation in a mutually harmonious way that results in my vision actualized, or something like that. The next one ChatGPT shared is physical discomfort. Let's use conversations again. So if someone is in a conversation with another person and they feel physical discomfort, relax into the flow. It's okay to feel physical discomfort. Let's say there was a feeling of awkwardness. Person is experiencing awkwardness. That's okay. Nothing wrong with them for experiencing an emotion which they could label as awkwardness. Nothing wrong with them at all. Allow the emotion to be. Allow it to arise and subside. It's okay to feel awkward. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. No shame and condemnation. By allowing the emotion to release, and through the repetition of doing this again, again, and again, you find it easier to remain in the flow. If you're out of the flow, relax back into the flow. It becomes easier and easier and easier. So, relaxation, rather than tensing up and shaming yourself or condemning yourself for experiencing emotions a particular way strongly, we can in that moment release that identification. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am. And what ends up happening? Well, you remain in your flow. The physical discomfort subsides. One of the things that I find to be really helpful is to release identification to the belief of perfectionism. I value the nuances of constant improvement, constant refinement. I really do. And having released identification to the belief of perfectionism, where, let's say, the individual never believes that they're good enough, no matter what it is that they do, no matter what conversation they engage in, and even if they make a lot of progress to being as they are, authentic, true self-expression, it's never good enough, and then they shame themselves and condemn themselves afterwards. Once that belief has been released, as identification to that particular belief that is generating that experience after the interactions with people, once that belief is released, they accept themselves the way they are. And that is a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. Why is it beautiful? Well, for many reasons. You find that you're able to, for the context of our conversation today, remain in your flow. You feel present and comfortable more so each day in increasing frequency on a continuous basis wherever you are. You feel it. Experientially, you feel it. Beyond theory, beyond conjecture, you actually feel it. And it is a wonderful feeling. Which brings us to point number 6. It shares overthinking. So if one releases identification to perfectionism, the belief that generates perfectionism, the way we do the release of identification to belief of perfectionism is through autosuggestion. I accept myself the way I am now. I find it easier, more so each day, to accept myself the way I am now. I let myself be, I let others be, they let me be, the world lets me be, as I accept myself the way I am now. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, regardless of appearances, regardless of interpretation. That releases identification to the perfectionism-based belief. And what naturally arises is the true self, the experiential realization that I am that. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I am that. So, that being said, overthinking, when an individual, let's say, overthinks, a lot of times it's a result of not accepting themselves the way they are now. They are whole, complete. See, I and the Father are one. The individual that appears is one with the Father, the all. And thus being one with all, we have all, are complete, have everything the way we are now. That is the way we truly are. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So, the final point, what ChatGPT shares, let's take a look at that, is boredom. Interesting, boredom. One of the auto-suggestions that I would say very often to myself is that I am always having a great time wherever I am. Right now, I'm having a wonderful time. We're enjoying a wonderful conversation. We're on our way to see Ed. We have a wonderful time with Ed. We also have a wonderful time on the way to seeing Ed. Isn't it wonderful? Everywhere we are, we have a wonderful time. This kind of self-talk is what results in the experiences of always having a wonderful time. Always having a wonderful time. More and more so each day. You may even notice that this entire conversation is an auto-suggestion. It's a wonderful auto-suggestion. These are the kinds of conversations I actually have with myself while I'm driving by myself. The only difference is that I'm recording right now and sharing it with you. See, we may be engaging in conversations with ourselves, and we might not be aware of the conversations. So it is helpful then to bring awareness to these conversations and enjoy having a conversation with ourselves, being our own best friend. It's a wonderful thing. And then you never experience boredom. I don't remember the last time I felt bored. And it is because also from the auto-suggestion that everywhere I'm having a wonderful time. You could say wonderful, you could say great time, you could say isn't it wonderful, capture the feeling of, suspend judgment as to what it looks like, capture the feeling of being wonderful. Capture that feeling. And you remain in your flow. You find that it's easy to remain in your flow. And it becomes easier to remain in your flow more and more so each day, wherever you are. And that's wonderful. So again, to recap before we sign off here, and then I'm going to enter the highway. ChatGPT shares flow restrictors, distraction, multitasking, negative emotions, even though I don't label emotions as negative, but we understand what it's referring to, the labeling of it. Lack of clear goals, physical discomfort, overthinking, and boredom.
So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, I effortlessly release identification to the appearances as I realize I transcend them. From the foundation I am, I relate ideally to what appears and remain in my flow. I listen to my intuition, which speaks from clarity, to relate ideally from the premise of fulfilled desire. From clarity, I easily remain in flow as I experience the various conversations and environments on the journey to actualizing my definite major purpose of life. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.